Sahil, the president kind of pushed us towards West Virginia with a tweet over the weekend telling people to vote for either candidate, just not one. Talk us through what happened and why he thinks this is important.
Right. President Trump getting involved in the West Virginia primary, essentially urging voters not to support Donald Blankenship, who's a highly controversial former coal baron who served jail time. He's launched some inflammatory and some racist attacks against Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader's wife, Elaine Chao, who's the transportation secretary. The president is doing this as Republicans fear a Blankenship victory. There's some recent internal polling that's leaked by Republicans that shows Blankenship has been surging in the final days. And if he wins, Republicans fear that it's going to be another, a repeat of Alabama, as the president suggested, where they nominated an alleged child molester who ended up losing, in the general election to a Democrat in a very red state.
Sahil, a few weeks ago, I think Blankenship was in third place in a lot of the polls, and then he came out with the Cocaine Mitch ads, and suddenly everyone started talking about him. What is it? Was it just the inflammatory ads that have vaulted him into serious contention here?
I mean, he is running as the consummate outsider, the anti-establishment candidate. He is echoing a lot of the president's rhetoric on America first and attacking the press as fake news, which the president, of course, likes to do. There is just an outsider attitude, a burn-it-down attitude that is very, very appealing to Republican voters in this day and age. And there are some parallels, imperfect, but some parallels to President Trump's own campaign in 2016 when he was seen as the outsider, the unelectable person, taking on the establishment. Blankenship is trying to cast himself in the same light. And, the fear among Republicans is that he is far too damaged to win in November.
West Virginia, of course, only one of 4 states that will be holding a primary. You also have Indiana, North Carolina, and Ohio holding their primary tomorrow. What would you be watching out for? Of those 3, what is the most interesting?
The most interesting of those 3 is Indiana. There is a 3-way contested Republican primary between 2 U.S. congressmen and 1 former state representative. And there are a couple of interesting things about this. Number one, it's a very, very fierce and bitter fight. These 3 candidates are slinging all sorts of attacks, some personal attacks at each other. The other fascinating dynamic is that this is essentially a contest over who's Trumpier. They're all competing over who supports the president more, who's like the president more. One of them is wearing a Make America Great Again hat, a baseball cap. Another one has nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. The third one says, wait a minute, no, I'm the outsider businessman candidate. So that dynamic is fascinating in a state that President Trump won by 19 points and from which he plucked his vice presidential candidate, now the vice president.